special shout out to our sponsor, Qualia. Qualia is the category-creating digital closing platform used by thousands of lenders across the country to seamlessly work with their title and escrow partners. By working better together, Qualia is powering lenders to deliver a differentiated closing experience for their clients. Through real-time communications, closing status updates, and workflow management, Qualia brings lenders together with home buyers and sellers, title and escrow agents, and real estate agents for a secure and seamless closing experience. Qualia is proud to have been awarded the Housing Wire Tech 100 Award for real estate, as well as CB Insights FinTech 250 Award. Discover how you can work more efficiently with your title and escrow partners at qualia.com/innovators. That's QUALIA.com/innovators.
Greetings, everyone. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Mortgage Innovators podcast, where we deliver fresh and hopefully fun and entertaining content and insights of all things mortgage and innovation that's propelling our industry forward. My name's Margaret Chiavini, and I am with New Res Correspondent Lending. And every Tuesday you can find our rotating group of co-hosts, or what our producers have dubbed the Innovative Five. Each one of us bring our own unique connection to the industry. So it's always a blast to be on this podcast with Sue Woodard. Nice to see you, Sue.
Always good to see you, Margaret.
And of course, Michael Guidotti. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Well, we have a dynamite session today. It's the theme of recruiting. But before we actually get into that, I want to make sure that our listeners know about the Mortgage Innovators Conference in 2022. Can't believe it. We're already in 2022. And the theme of this conference is the power of innovation. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic conference. We're back in person, and those of us that were at the National MBA and at Western Secondary, we just know how fantastic being back in person is. So just want to make sure you all know that it is May 2nd through the 4th at the Hilton Anaheim. And for the latest information on registration and sponsorship opportunities, head to mortgageinnovators.com/conference. That's mortgageinnovators.com/conference. Okay, well, Michael and Sue, all things recruiting. I say we dig into it and we talk about this fantastic topic that really is top of mind for everybody in our industry. So as we begin to kind of break this apart and have this great conversation really for our listeners, I want us to really think about what are the key functionalities that we need to look at to elevate the recruiting efforts. You know, not only do we need to recruit production folks, but we also need to recruit operations. We need to be ready for 2022. It's going to be a challenging year. All the indications sort of lead us to that conclusion, and recruiting is going to be more important really than ever. So let's dig in.
Well, let's do it.
See. Yeah. So Sue, do you want to kind of kick us off?
I can. I know we're going to, the exciting thing I would say about this topic is, as you said, Margaret, a lot of lenders, everybody that we're talking to is talking about recruiting, whether it's recruiting or retention, because the flip side of recruiting is retention, because your folks you're trying to retain are somebody else's recruits, right? The big thing that we're hearing from a lot of lenders is when everybody says, gosh, volume is down, how are you going to make it in, like what changes are you going to make to protect your margins, protect your business? Everybody's saying, oh, just grab more market share. Well, not everybody can grab more market share. The pie is shrinking, and the market share that people are trying to grab means your loan officers. And so it's about recruiting, but it's also about retention. So we're focusing on recruiting today. And one of the topics that we're talking about in the green room, I'll call it, before we came online is, Michael, there's a lot of technologies and data sources out there And so we're going to talk a little bit about them, but we've got, MMI as an example, Ingenious as an example. I thought of Model Match as an example. There are some companies that are really doing a good job powering this, but we're going to really be focusing on just what are some of the main concepts, regardless of which, company you might choose to work with, what are some of the most important concepts to cover. So Michael, I know you all have been doing an incredible job with both recruiting and retention. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the recruiting tactics you have been using, how you've seen it shift over the past year. And let's riff on that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, you both hit it on the head, right? It's the biggest topic probably in the industry right now because, again, after such a full 2020 and 2021, it's kind of like, that sky is finally falling, that everybody's been talking about for a little bit. So for us, it's been, really staying engaged with, people throughout the process, even knowing that they may not be making a move right then. Right. I think that's one of the keys is, you didn't see a lot of big moves in 2020 and 2021 outside, as far as individual, branches and producers to the scale that you used to see previous years, because everybody was so busy and it was kind of like, we're too busy to make a move. So I think, the key was really just, what types of systems are you using? Are you using a CRM to stay in front of just typical drip campaigns and content to make sure that you're staying front in mind so that when those people are ready, you are that kind of plan B that they've got in place if plan A doesn't work out. And so that's one of the things that I think that we have stayed focused on. And I think, tying retention into recruiting is, it really is kind of all in one, is like, what are you doing every day to recruit your own people? And so one of the strategies that we've really focused on is really helping our loan officers and branches specifically recruit real estate agents even. Using some of those systems that Sue mentioned, they have great data on who are the top agents, what is their kind of mix, is it more listing or is it more, sales, and really partnering that with things for our branches to be able to use to go and establish those relationships with some of those top agents in their marketplace, because we know that, it's not coming, we're already back in a purchase focused market. So, what can they do to make sure that they're getting in front of those top agents? Or, as we are talking about some margin compression, maybe using that data to understand, okay, if you've got 5 agents that you're looking to do some type of co-marketing with, or, you're spending, money on print flyers together with them and, doing all that stuff, maybe you have to scale back. And so you're going to scale back to the people that are doing, the larger volume, and you're having that visibility using some of that data.
Well, I was just going to say, part of what you're talking about is having access to data, and I think that's so critically important, because the last thing that you want to do when you're recruiting a loan officer, or to your very good point, if you're talking about recruiting a real estate agent, is kind of go in blind, like, well, tell me about your business and what kind of stuff are you, I mean, it's wildly insulting, right? When the data is there through some of the partners that we recommended, how powerful to not only be able to make the choices about who you are going to target in the first place, right? Like, are you targeting, one of the brilliant things I think about all this data that's available is you can make sure that you're targeting, if you need to work on your diversity, underserved markets, if you need to work on a different type of product mix, that you maybe are short on, that you want to flesh out a little bit more, whether you're a loan officer recruiting a realtor or you're a business recruiting a loan officer, having that data and being able to go in equipped and informed is incredibly important. There's no excuse to be going in cold. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And I remember even back in the day when people would recruit me like that, it's like we had Google. You could find out something about me, and it was offensive for somebody to call with no data or information at all, like no effort placed at all about me, was a big turnoff. So, Margaret.
Yeah, no, and I love what you're saying. There's a great definition of luck that I just always think about, and that is that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. And so what you kind of triggered for me, Sue, is using data and really being a rigorous professional. You can go and, Michael, what you were saying is stay in touch even before they're ready to make a move. And, then when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready and you're prepared. And I think it's inexcusable in today's world to really be engaging with anyone and not doing your homework with all of the data that's available, for sure, for sure. The other thing that I wanted to bring forth that you said, Michael, that I had not thought about, when I think about recruiting, oftentimes my paradigm is that it's very linear. And when you were saying as a loan officer, recruiting the agents, when you think about it, regardless of our role, we all have recruiting that we need to do for the sake of being successful, building enterprise value, creating competitive advantage, all of that stuff. So I really loved that. I hadn't thought about it like that until you mentioned that. That's pretty neat. So what and the other thing too that I wanted to touch on, Sue, I had not thought about recruiting and then the other side of recruiting, which is retention, and how important, because if we focus purely on recruiting and we also don't have a strategy and a culture and a care for taking care of who we have, then we're going to be recruiting all the time because we won't keep anybody. Right?
No, it's spot on. And Michael, I know you can probably speak to this. I mean, APM has such an incredibly strong culture, right? I mean, it's something that just, always has, really, I think, shined through a lot of your efforts. And because it is about, again, the folks you're wanting to retain are potentially somebody else's recruits, but you want the right people that really fit with your culture. Otherwise, to Margaret's point, you're just going to be turning these folks over anyways.
Yep.
And maybe that's something you can speak to a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's where it boils down to the different levels, right? Because it's like, as much as, yes, as a company, we are focused on, recruiting, and bringing in, and especially too in new markets and in new places, to where then, you're helping, maybe you're focused on those markets that have a lot of underserved communities, and, maybe haven't historically had access to some of the products that are now available out there that we're starting to see come back in, in the marketplace. And that is a piece of recruiting in itself, right? Is all of these products that we had pre-pandemic that are starting to roll back out, that now are unleashing even more access, to either go and grab additional loan officers, to entice your agents with, because they're things that have just been non-existent over the last couple of years. But I think for us, from a retention standpoint, the more things that we can provide to our LOs to help them recruit new agents or recruit more business from their agents, that in itself is recruiting, because that's that retention, right? If
Yep.
we're providing them all these tools to help them recruit more business, they're not going to be picking up those phones from, the 15 phone calls they're getting a day from other, from recruiters. They're going to be like, hey, like, I need to call my agent to tell them about this great new product or new program that we have. I can't deal with this call from you.
Well, and it's a good point. Joe Wellue, the CEO of Total Expert, was quoted in an article recently where he was talking about retention, and those are exactly the points that he was talking about. Is that now is the time where, yes, loan officers have the first time in literally years been able to kind of take a breath and look around, and to some extent, kind of say, okay, where am I going next, and what business is going to serve me best, and what do I need to be successful? And so the smart lenders have been thinking about this and getting ahead of this and making sure that you've got those things in place, not just for those loan officers, but for, truly to support their business, going forward. And so I think you're spot on with that, whether it's the co-marketing, the agents haven't been paid attention to in a while either. And so really, looking at those tools that can come into play. So again, you're taking it from the lender, recruiting the right loan officers in, retaining the right loan officers. And this is where I think some of the most innovative technologies and data sources, we talked about, Total Expert, I think there's a piece of HubSpot, MMI, Ingenious, Model Match, there's just a suite of tools and data out there that can really power these efforts, because this isn't a one-time thing. This is an ongoing thing for lenders. It's just taking center stage right now.
Yep. And I think that is one of the biggest keys to remember is it's center stage right now, but it really is a cycle, right? It's a will and it's a, a journey where, this is always going to be going on. And these are, long-standing relationships. And so it's kind of just making sure that, you're going to have your ebbs and flows like anything, but that there's always something kind of going out. They're never forgetting who you are when you reach back out. I think that's one of the biggest keys is, you never want it to be a no. At worst, you want it to be a not right now. And then that's the key to then make sure that you're cycling back with them.
Well, and it's about people, right? We're talking about data and the technology that powers this, but just like there's a saying that's something like people don't quit jobs, they leave managers. And it's the same thing, you've probably heard me say on this podcast before, people work with people. People don't go to just work with a company, they connect with people. And so even though that's the beauty of true innovative technology and the data that powers it, is that the outcome of that is you've got people connecting with other people. So you've got the right recruits coming into the business, the right referral partners connecting with the right loan officers, because they're able to make that personal connection. And I do think that that's more important now. Than almost ever before. I mean, we're going through this weird time in the world. We've got the great resignation upon us. People are, working remotely more. I think that the human connection powered by technology and data, that's the real innovation.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I love that. I love this podcast because it seems to me we're always talking about the things that are so critical for our listeners to be paying attention to and really to incorporate as a standard part of their overall strategy. I love, Michael, what you said is that we're recruiting all the time. Sue, to your point, yes, there's a lot of different and kind of weird things that are happening right now, but recruiting needs to be a central kind of core part of every successful organization's strategy. And then the whole idea of retention as the complete partner to that, because recruiting isn't really successful if it doesn't stand right there with retention, which I love. Well, that is fantastic. Just one last question, because we're coming to the end of our time. So would you have any different comments as it relates to the recruiting of roles that are more ops in general?
Well, I'll say one quick thing. I'll give actually a plug for Access Lending Academy, which is a nonprofit that I'm on the board of. Paul Gelati of Pinnacle really started this about a year ago. And what it's about is taking individuals that, perhaps are, maybe they're diverse, maybe they just need a hand up, but it's taking some young people and giving them training and internship and job placement for operational roles in the industry. And so I would just encourage, that's one point of, I guess I would encourage is people to look at accesslendingacademy.com as they are looking to fill operational roles going forward. It's something pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. It's such a great organization that he's building.
Yeah.
Michael, any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, I think it's also, just as a company or even as like a branch, I think a lot of branches are starting to really see the value in expanding the roles of their operational staff. You're seeing more and more licensed LOAs or licensed operation managers. So then it's really getting them, sunken in more depth of the sales side of things. It makes them better at their current job. It's also then helping them even achieve additional, income goals that they may have. They're actually contributing in multiple ways to branches. So I think that's one thing that I'm seeing, more and more of is, creating more cohesiveness and even understanding between the operation and the sales sides that we know sometimes can get a little bit like this. And I think the more that they understand both sides of the process and the complex workflow, the more opportunities you're going to see for companies, branches, individuals as a whole.
And I love it because what you just said made me think of harmonizing the whole notion of recruiting and retention. So you're just doing that. I mean, you're creating a way that the operations person actually has even more value, which leads to the retention and recruiting from the perspective of creating more opportunities to generate revenue and profit and build enterprise value. So that's pretty neat. Well, you guys, I love talking to you. Thank you so much for today's episode. We are out of time. I would also like to just thank our listeners for joining in for today's episode. And if you like what you heard, please make sure to subscribe to the Mortgage Innovators YouTube channel or wherever you podcast. So until next time, so long.